There, everyone. You hear talk about right here is like for the Maglio Mathematics, and basically that you see right here is I would him put together right here is like a little mathematical activity. I'm sure that most of us have when we're working our math homework that we're likely say that we really we don't like it too much to where that we don't really want to think about making up like what says like an activity that really I don't really know if there's really such thing is like a mathematical study subject like this right here for like a like a Maglio mathematics type problem right here. And it sounds like to me like maybe a little bit of geometry or something like that, calculus, but they're thinking about the regular basic accounts of math. And I went and put together right here is like if we want to call these maybe like elements or some kind, to where these circles, to where we may know them as like maybe these little ball type of shape designs right here, but you have right there a little bit like a sideways four. And more like one to where whenever we are working our math work and necessarily thinking about 44 and 44.89. And really, that this does seem like a type of math problem. And the way I went and put this together right here is basically talking about right here is like a shape right here. I went and used right here as a circle since we've seen a lot, but let's just say we could maybe use squares or maybe rectangles or triangles or diamond shapes or octagons or some kind. But I would just go ahead and pick right here as a circle. And anything that more likely that gives us an idea, I'm sure that more likely the list goes on to where, hey, well, try this or try that. I might go try maybe the sparagon or something like that, or the pentagon, shape. But basically, this mathematical type study right here talks about mainly is about for how much when we work the math problems as to where what's equal to bigger and smaller, and solving like a puzzle right here. And let's just say that if this was right here was a puzzle to where that you had so many of these, which call example these elements right here, these circles, to where each one of them that represent a certain amount, and you put it all together, and then maybe if you want to make one bigger or smaller, but working with these different shapes right here. And I don't know, I'm like, if that's really like a math thing. It sounds like to me a little bit like a maybe like geometry. I don't know about chemistry, but maybe like a geometry type study to where that each one of these shapes would equal to a certain amount. And like I would form these right here as like groups right here. But I'm like, yeah, I just kind of thought about this and kind of, I guess you could say you made it up to where I'm like, and necessarily thinking about is to where that, yeah, that there's like, some kind to where that, anything that's mathematical to where that while you're working on something, you're just thinking about, I'm like, type of math problem. Do you think that you would want to make up your own math problem and draw these circles and squares right here and think necessarily to where are they supposed to equal to numbers or counting digits or some kind, long division and subtraction or anything like that. Like Warren to where that really I'm like we may think that maybe a word search is word search or maybe crossword puzzles or anything like that are too complicated. So just like this right here to where I'm sure that a lot of us will probably say one of the reasons why we don't really like math or like any type of subjects because it's too complicated, they don't understand. Not really about, well, they understand it, but then they it's just not their thing or something like that. But let's just say on average to where if you have right here the Maglio mathematics is that you have right here is a number right here, and like you use point, this right here not really would be measured by the amount of money or anything like that. But let's just say this was like accounting to where that yeah, thinking about is like the long division as well as numbers that more likely equal to shapes. And I keep thinking about, I'm like, yeah, this is like a blue mix right here. But let's just say if we were to have a group of shapes that one of them would be like maybe the green and then the yellow along with the brown. What's that equal to? So we're like wondering necessarily to where, yeah, that if you want to go ahead and change the colors of the shapes and you're like Warren to where go ahead and change these right here to like a red right there. And you're like Warren to where, okay, change that right there, and then that right there, go ahead and change that to like a green right there. and they're like wondering to where I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I'm confused here because, for first of all, I'm like, is this equal to such a? It's like, are we working with this puzzle right here, this puzzle alone? And you're like, Warren, to where which one is bigger and smaller? So whenever we're working any type of mathematical type studies right here and thinking about, I'm like, really, that is there really such thing as like a subject matter like a mathematical type study called Maglio Math, to where that you basically work different shapes and sizes into a puzzle to where it equals to a certain size of numbers and counts. And I'm like, really, if I were to be thinking about this back whenever I was a kid, and I'm sure that there'll be like another mystery story to where anybody who was interested in everybody say about, okay, whatever that means, but you have right here, using right here are shapes. Shapes right here in colors as like example to where just to build a design, just to build a design on top of a design. So, or like Warren to where 44 and 89, that could also maybe mean by, like say, the type of if we want to call them elements, measured into one shape, one type of design, you'll use these shapes right here to form like a design right here, and then what goes into that particular puzzle frame. But then if you want to go ahead and create a duplicate and then put another one right here, and into where that could form like a design right there. And that may be another type of study to where that what I'm thinking about, if there's any such thing, it's more likely that's more likely like the computer desktop graphic designing or anything like that, to where if you're basically that one number, a smaller number, or maybe a above number above maybe the number of a trillion billion or something like that, or maybe the thousand mark. So if anybody has ever taken any type of along if it's going to be a rounding type of math problems, I'm sure that most of us who have graduated from high school or maybe are in college would probably say that they probably had quite a few of the mathematical type classes, and thinking about that you've maybe not had everything like me. I had not had everything, but on your hand well, I've had quite a few of the basics, such as the rounding and then the basic math and those type of math problems. But if you think about them, like if you can come up with your own math problem, like make up a subject where like to where everything, all these shapes right here would fit into this category right here. But then you would more likely have to make one group of shapes. It's like match them up with other shapes and maybe transform the colors, just to be able to match them up with this, or just to be able to form a design and of some kind to where you had these numbers right here. Really, is there such thing as what you call as a subject like that? Like we say, is to where that if anybody were to think about any subjects that they didn't really like whenever they were in school, and you're like Warren, to where, hey, I'm like, I didn't like it to the point to where I've earned my credits to graduate, to move on. I don't want to bother. I didn't want to bother with it anymore. So we're like Warren, to where that maybe like a brick, shaped design, and you're like Warren, to where that about what's the measurement to where one brick, like if you were to be building a brick house, what's the measurement to like one full-size brick right here? And you're like Warren, to where oh no, like, well, I'm thinking it's about maybe 3/4 length and width or something like that. But talk about right here is like with shapes, though, that with one number that more likely could equal to about one single shape or a group of shapes. And this basically is like, for like a subject I came up with, like besides subject archive, is thinking about whenever I was a kid and thinking about necessarily to where one is like, that you've heard about, the letters of, alphabet letters being equal to numbers, like for the key, for like algebra A and algebra B. But then on your hand, they're like Warren, to where, could shapes be used, for like form of design? And I'm thinking that more likely that's some kind of a study for like if it's going to be anything that related to oh geometry, and I'm thinking that sounds a little bit more like geometry. But anyway, talk about say for Maglio Mathematics, it's like thanks for watching, May 25.